Why don't some repair shops like servicing classic Mercedes? You know, this is a question sometimes I ask myself, why do I do this? It's so time consuming and laborious. Sometimes parts take forever to arrive. I mean, it's no walk in the park. And I think that a lot of people who have these cars get frustrated because they get turned down by more and more repair shops. And by the way, this is a good sign you should be learning to work on your own car. And then there are some other signs here too that some shops will work on a 280 SL or 280 SE 3.5, but they just won't work on a 220D. And this is really a shame because you can't really drive a 280 SL every day unless, you don't mind greasing suspension, adjusting valves, setting ignition timing, occasionally checking pump. Make sure all those things are fine and well and good. But I like just adjusting valves quickly on the W126 that I don't have any suspension points to grease or anything like that. And both cars cruise pretty well at 70 miles an hour. It's just one gets closer to 30 miles per gallon and one gets a lot less than 20. So we need to explore this question. Why do the majority of shops not like working on these cars? There are 4 or 5 reasons to this. I think number one is the difficulty of getting parts. So I know a lot of people that go to a shop and they'll say, we can't get parts for these. Now that doesn't mean that the part is not available. It either means one of two things. One, we're too lazy, or we don't want to apply ourselves and look up the parts. Or two, we don't know where to get parts. Or 3, we've never even tried, so we don't know, so we're just going to say they aren't. The answer, though, is usually based on either ignorance or laziness, which unfortunately is the root cause of so many failures in life. The next reason I find is that it's very hard to make a quick buck working on older Mercedes. I think a lot of people don't realize this, but I have to bleed and sweat and suffer and struggle for every dollar I make, and I still have to give customers discounts so that they will, allocate resources towards a 40, 50, 100-hour repair bill. This is not exactly the model that I wanted. I mean, in an ideal world, I'd get to bill for every hour that I work and, have a few side hustles within my scope of knowledge where I would make some money. But unfortunately, those things don't really exist here. This is going to be it's going to be a hard drive to the top or the bottom, depending on which way I choose to go. I prefer to think the top, but at some point in my life when I hang up my gloves and quit doing this, I'm a very old man, I doubt that I'm going to be wealthy, and I doubt that I'm going to have had an easy life at any point. It just isn't the nature of the business. And a lot of people they're not like me, they're not gluttons for punishment. That's all. Number 3, the cars tend to stay a long time. So it's very hard to sit down and explain to a customer that their car that they thought was going to be here for 3 to 5 weeks is going to be here for 6 months, 8 months, a year, because the car just has so many issues. Because we need to get this obsolete part shipped in from SL shop in the UK, and that's going to take 3 weeks. Because we need to make sure that this part gets rebuilt properly. We have to send it to a fuel injection pump shop that has an 8-month backlog. There are a lot of variables here that make the job more difficult than I think it needs to be, but it certainly is not a cost-effective model. And I think number 4, sometimes the problem can be the customer. So each customer comes to me with a unique set of expectations. I usually have to adjust those expectations. That takes a lot of time. The diplomacy of dealing with customers is one of those things that you have to accept being in this position. You have to understand how to convey and express each car's needs to each car's owner, because people don't just come in here knowing stuff. They have to have some interim information. I don't always like that aspect of the job. Some parts of sometimes I do. Sometimes I really love it. Sometimes I really hate it. But it's part of the job. whether you love it or hate it, you have to accept that A, it's part of the job, B, you have to do it well. Now, a lot of people ask me this question. They say, well, Pierre, don't you think more shops should expand into Classic Mercedes service? And taking into account what I know about being a mechanic, about running a business, about having employees, about having a family and trying to support that family, and about trying to gain specialized knowledge, actually, I don't. I think that it is a good pursuit for somebody that wants to do it, like my friend Jamie Kopczynski. I know Jamie watches this channel. He just opened a shop up in New Jersey where he's doing exactly what we're doing. So if you want service on your Classic Mercedes, you can call him. You don't have to get your car shipped down here anymore. But I don't think it's a great fit, because if you're already established in the automotive repair business and you think you're going to go into fixing Classic Mercedes, you're actually opening an entire different business than what you're used to. And that business demands 60, 80, 100 hours a week. If you have a young family, I did this all before I had a family, before I was married, and I put off getting married and starting a family to make sure that the machine was running on all 8 cylinders. Sometimes it would run on 3 or 7. You just can't go into this. So I only encourage people to do it if they feel they have the flexibility and the patience to do it, because ultimately you have to do a good job and you have to be honest. You can't go into this line of work being a complete schmuck who doesn't know what they're doing, hoping they can fake it till they make it. Sometimes like I was when I was 21 years old. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video about why a lot of shops don't like to service Classic Mercedes, and probably why you shouldn't expect any random import shop to service your Classic Mercedes, please leave a like, share, and subscribe. And if you feel like there's some additional information I missed, you can leave it in the comments. But this should be a good indicator as to why you should learn to work on your own Mercedes Benz. So I'll see you in the future. Thank you.